Hi, I'm Dave Bergman, IPC Vice President of International Relations, and I have this week's Technical Question of the Week. This comes from one of our U.S. members, and it is involved with electrostatic discharge. Now, normally, electrostatic discharge is of concern to companies doing electronics manufacture, where the resistance or static electricity builds up on an employee and causes potential damage to the assembly. So in this case, there is a lot of equipment that's used to remove static charges from the employees. But in this case, the question was the opposite. This member had an employee who was actually too conductive. And so the question related to, I have an employee that's evaluating and the ESD value or the resistance is too low. Now that surprised many people because normally you're looking for questions of people of being static, building up static and having a resistance too high. So then the question is, why do I care? If I'm trying to drain the extra static charges from the employee to protect the assembly, why do I care if my static is low or my resistance is low? Well, actually, in this case, it becomes a question of protection of the employee, not the protection of the assembly. If the resistance of the employee is too low, there is a potential for a static or a charge going straight through the employee and potentially hurting the person. If the amperage comes by, if the person touches a charged area, it can actually stop the heart. And so the question then becomes, how can I evaluate what kind of equipment should I have in place and make sure that the employee stays safe? So the discussion that has been taking place on TechNet this week on this one is to make sure that you have good wrist strap with limiting resistors both on the arms and the legs, grounding pads, etc., so that this particular employee, they also recommended checking whether the shoes were proper, because in some cases some employees have shoes that have a high level of conductivity. And you need to, if you're going to keep your employees safe, especially if their skin has low resistance, you need to make sure that they have proper protective gear.